Thank you for joining. In this video, Kurt Green will walk through Ontinue's managed XDR service. You'll see how our model, coupled with the Ion Managed Security Platform, delivers transparency, faster incident resolution, and proactive security posture improvement to make life easier and more secure for organizations using Microsoft security tools.
Okay, let's get going. So I think the best way to really show off the Ontinue service is by first reviewing the architecture. Everything that we have here in the blue box is all within inside the customer's tenant. And what we do is we take those security tools that you have inside of your license, your Microsoft license, and we help you get the most value out of those tools. We take the hacker's standpoint or the attacker's standpoint to begin with, in that the first thing an attacker is looking to do is get a foothold with inside your environment. So therefore, one of the first pieces that we need for our service is Defender for Endpoint, so that we can control that endpoint. We can control where they're trying to get that initial access into your environment. From there, once they get inside your environment, they like to land and expand, as we call it, right? And they do that through identity. So Defender for Identity is the next piece that we want to light up inside your license and capture, so that we can control those two areas. From there, we're going to want to implement as many of the defenders as you have with inside your license, to get that more holistic coverage of your entire environment, whether that's through your email, what you have in the cloud, all the way to your IoT devices. Once we have all these up and running inside your environment, the next thing we do is, if you don't already have log analytics and Sentinel up and running, we'll get this up and running for you during our onboarding process. Just real quick, we have a very streamlined and automated onboarding process. It's around 1 to 5 days for the technical setup, and then 10 days of baselining. So really 15 days and you're up and running in SLA. Once we have Sentinel up and running, we use Lighthouse then to connect to your Sentinel instance, as well as your Defender security portal. We connect to the Sentinel instance so that then we can push in all of our detection rules, as well as any local automation. Also, as time goes on and we're updating rule sets, any watch lists, any search saves, anything like that we do, all with inside your tenant. That's why we need that Azure connection, or that Lighthouse connection, to your Sentinel instance. On the Defender security portal side, that's where then we can take actions on your behalf. So any of those actions that we can take through that portal, be it isolating a host, app restrictions, all the way down to revoking sessions, replacing or resetting passwords, what have you, we can all take through there. What this also affords too is we avoid a lot of the privacy concerns that our customers have. Since we're only attaching to the specific security instances, your Sentinel, your SIM, and that Defender security portal, and we don't have general access to systems and their data, then we avoid those privacy concerns, because we don't have access to that sensitive data. Once we're up and running, the next thing then that we do is we take a look back throughout your environment and say, what else inside your environment can add security context and value? It's firewalls, maybe other cloud environments, what have you. We go through an evaluation process on that and determine what's going to add that extra security context and value. So we moved away from that old model of just bringing all the logs in, throwing them into a big database, layering over a SIM on top, and trying to filter up incidents. We've moved to more of a strategic model, in that the defenders are our key security sources of truth, the purpose-built solutions. So let's rely on these first to alert us to malicious activity taking place. And then anything else inside that environment, again, that could add that additional security context and value. This does a couple different things. One is we're very specific about our service. So when an alert does trigger, it's typically a true positive or something we want to look at. And two, we're not driving up ingest costs. We're controlling those costs, and I'll show you later on throughout the demo on how we monitor those costs for you. Once all this is set up, we do a B2B Teams Connect, and we're a Teams channel inside of your Teams. This is how we deliver our service. This is our portal. There's no other portal that you have to log into. It's Microsoft Teams. Our motto is that we want to be as close to our clients as possible and operate on their same medium. So what better way than to operate in Microsoft Teams and just be a team chat away? Through Teams is where you'll find your dashboards and what have you. And I'll walk you through all of this in just a minute on how we use all this. So how does this work in action? Again, on the bottom here, we have your Sentinel inside of your tenant. Again, we're connected via Azure Lighthouse. But when an incident does appear, an alert does appear, the first thing it does is it goes through our automation routine. We've completely automated the tier 1 level analysts. In fact, we do not hire junior analysts or analysts, people looking to get into security at junior level. We only hire tier 2, tier 3 career level positions. The reason is we don't want to have that same problem that our clients have with that high turnover. So what we've done is we've completely automated that task. If automate cannot resolve the issue itself, but needs to move it along, that's when it sends it up to our workbench. And I'll show you a good example of this as we go further into the demo. But this is our tier 2, tier 3 level analysts. Again, we have a 24/7 follow the SOC model. We have 4 SOCs throughout the globe, one in Zurich, one in London, one in Noida, and another one out here in Redwood City, California. So we're always working daylight hours, and there's always somebody there that can help respond and take action. You're not going through a call list or anything like that. Again, if we need to communicate with you, it's all through Microsoft Teams, and I'm going to run through an incident after this and show you exactly what this is. What's interesting about Ontinue is that we started off actually as a data science company. We started from there realizing that it's a big data and process problem, and we needed to resolve that first, as well as other issues, before we got into the managed detection and response. So we use AI and modeling all throughout our platform in various different ways, and I'll highlight different ways as we come about it. But one thing, the first initial thing actually that we do is that we set a model for every client, and that model reviews the entire service and looks for efficiencies. So it's looking at everything from what type of incidents are we seeing from the various logs that we're ingesting. How is Automate working with those incidents? If it goes to the workbench, how are our analysts working with the incidents? Are they having to go somewhere else to do research or enrich that incident? If so, do we need to incorporate that into our service? It even goes all the way down to the communication and collaboration that we have with our clients. So if we're seeing that the first responder, that client A, it responds a lot longer time than client B or person B, then maybe we should change that up. And so it'll highlight that and say, hey, to get a quicker response, maybe we need to change these 2 people around who we interact with first. So really, yeah, it's looking for those efficiencies in the service overall. The other way that we use AI is that during that baselining period that I talked about during onboarding, that's where we get to know you. And that's one of the big things that service providers are lacking nowadays is actually knowing their clients. So what we do is we use another piece of AI that during that onboarding portion, you tell us what's important to us. And then we feed that to our AI model, which goes out then and learns you. It knows what's important to you. So now it starts learning your business around that, starts looking for other devices or other entities that also could meet that mold, or if you will, for what's important to you. The reason why we do this is because we want to add that local context to incidents that come in. So just because you have a certain incident that popped up in your environment doesn't necessarily mean it's a threat. It could be a legitimate activity taking place. And the only way you'll know that is by knowing the client's business. So that's how we use AI in that instance. So with that, let's go ahead and get out of here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start first with an incident itself. And we'll walk through that, and then we'll walk through the reporting and communication and collaboration from that. So here we have an incident that would pop up inside your Sentinel instance. With any incident that pops up, you can always go directly to the activity log. And let me get this going. You can go directly to that activity log and then see everything that's taken place. So let me reopen this and see. Okay, and scroll down the bottom. And it was as funny as we have some clients that will actually go in here and watch this build in real time. But once an incident comes into your Sentinel instance, the first thing it's done again is picked up by the automation routines. And you can watch automation and what it's doing, how it's enriching that data, the KQL queries that it's coming up with to enrich it, any third-party tools that may be used. So Virus Total, Joe Sandbox in this instance, any tools that may be used during that process. Now, the automation routine is going to try and not only enrich the statement, it's going to try to close it if it can. If it can't, then in like this instance, then it'll send it up to what we call our Cyber Defense Center, or our SOCs. At this point, what happens in the back end is that our SOC receives a ticket of any sort that now they can react to. So case in point in this one, what a typical ticket looks like, there's a link right back to the client Sentinel instance, again, using Lighthouse. So it brings us right into the client's tenant. Or what they have here is they have another mirror of that log inside that ticket that says, hey, here's what was done, here's what was found, but had to be escalated. They have at their fingertips, what are the rules of an engagement? What actions can they take right now? We also have the action buttons right here. So if they see something that they need to block immediately, they can click right on that. Also, what entities were involved, who they may need to contact, any special notes about the client. How does a couple questions that we get a lot from clients are, how do you know about our environment and things taking place? Each analyst that's in there, this is one of the ways that we do it. We keep notes on it, and those are attached with any incidents that come across. And then again, any quick links that may be of applicability. What we also do, and another part of that AI and learning your environment, is what we call Ion IQ Insights. What this does is this looks back through past activity and the alerts that we've seen, and then determines the probability of if it's a true positive, a false positive, or maybe even a benign positive. So the analyst quickly can see what has been found before for this incident, how it was triaged, what was the determination. If this is something like a incident that we always do the same or take the same action on, that action then and that automation or analytic rule can be pushed through here by the analyst itself so that the next time it appears, it gets taken care of. If the analyst, though needs to escalate this ticket, again, we're using Azure GPT in the back end. I want to be clear about that is that we only use the AI inside of Azure. We're not using OpenAI or anything like that. Again, keeping everything localized to your tenant. Your data is your data, in our opinion. But we're using Azure GPT to basically look through the log, the activity log, and then come up with a escalation write-up. This provides consistency in writing and in grammar to all our clients. So from here, that analyst can go through, can make any changes that they want, and then go ahead and submit this. Once they submit their escalation, this is then as a client where you would get your notification. So again, through your teams and that B2B Connect is where we have one channel called the incidents channel. And this is where that alert would come through. And you would get a write-up that says, hey, here's what we found. Here's what's been done so far. In this case, what's been quarantined, what automation did to enrich that data, and then what actions that we took because of our rules of engagement that we could take on your behalf right up front. So forced password resets on the 2 accounts that were found that were compromised. And then any additional recommendations. So sometimes those recommendations are we need approval to take further action, or maybe we don't have access to your Exchange server. So this is some additional steps that you could do to further remediate this issue. And then from here, again, it's teams. So we can chat back and forth to resolve this issue all the way to its completion. And from here, Anything that's done in there, again, if I go back to the activity log with inside the incident, all this is recorded inside that activity log. Literally, you have a full audit trail including all communication and all work that was done, all within inside the activity log of every incident, from when that incident was first discovered all the way to closure. You have that full audit trail and inside that activity log. Next piece I want to move to is the second channel inside of the platform, and that's called the advice channel. So every client that comes on board with Ontinue gets a assigned cybersecurity advisor or a technical contact. That technical contact can be reached right through your Teams chat. They only work with a handful of clients so that they actually get to know you and know that client and the operations and how they work. But any type of security question that you may have, you can do it right through here through Teams. You can also reach your account team through here. You can tag them on the chat and they get notified so you can talk to your account team. Or any type of advisories that come through will all come through on this channel. Additionally, any reports or documents maybe that we share back and forth, or very importantly, we have a security posture improvement that we do with every client once we get on board to try to bring their secure scores up as high as possible. Those reviews and the reports will all be within inside the file sections within inside of Teams. And then your dashboards. And what I typically do is I pull that dashboard out a little bit more and expand it. But this is what your dashboards look like. And I'll start first on the incident side, and then we'll move more to the other more high-level dashboards and other more proactive things that we do with inside the service. So from an incident management perspective, I hate to say it, every service provider provides pretty much a similar dashboard from this perspective, right? How many closed incidents you have, what are the different classifications, how they align to MITRE. Basically, what are we seeing out there? All the way down to time saved. How much time have we saved you through this service? You can look at incidents several different ways. You can, again, be inside your Sentinel and look at the incident view and dig into those right as they appear. You can come inside of here and actually look at your incidents that may appear through here. So you have that kind of that similar look to the workbench that I showed earlier. Or we actually have an assistant that you can just ask the question, hey, what incidents have I missed in the last 7 days? What's been escalated to me? What have you? And you can dig into those incidents from here. If this is a common question that you're going to ask all the time, you can pin it over here on the left-hand side so that it's always there so that you can just one click and go right to it. If for some reason you need to raise an incident to us, maybe it's the one I always like to use is my CEO lost their laptop and they had a sticky note with their password on it, right? It's something you'd want your provider to know. What we use is we have a engage button here. Oops, sorry about that. Went a little too far. We have what's called engage over here. And engage, close that off. Engage is a way to raise an issue to us. It creates an incident inside a Sentinel, but more importantly, it raises that immediate issue to our SOC. There are SLOs around the engage depending on the criticality, but at a critical nature, the average or the time that for the SLO that will have somebody on that SOC on a Teams meeting with you is 15 minutes. Our average time right now, we're averaging around 6 to 8 minutes response time. When you change that severity maybe to a high, then somebody will be on a meeting within an hour. And then anything beyond that, we sync schedules, create a meeting for everybody to be on. But the point is that we're readily accessible anytime you want, again, all through Teams meetings. Close this out. So what do we do more on the proactive side? This is the side that I like the most and really what our clients really appreciate. So from a high level view, the first dashboard, we really follow the NIST framework of the assess, prevent, detect, respond. What are my critical assets out there? What's my coverage look like? What are we looking at from a true positive perspective and how that aligns to MITRE and incident response? Um, Again, I talked about that security posture review. One of the things that we are monitoring on an ongoing basis is your Azure Secure Score. And typically we set a threshold of around 90 on this score. If it drops below 90, your cyber advisor is notified, and that advisor will come in here and determine, okay, what is it that's dropping this score that I need to get with the client with, and help try to shore up to bring that score back up. So things in red are different areas of no coverage that maybe we need to fill in a security gap. Uh, you as a client can also come in here and see, hey, what are some other recommendations that Ontinue has to even further increase that security posture score with inside our environment. Um, Not only from the Azure Secure Score side, we also look at the M365 Secure Score as well. And really what we're looking at here from an endpoint perspective are vulnerabilities. And again, this is all a part of the core service, everything that I'm showing you here. So what we do is we take in as part of the core service, what are the CVEs that are being identified inside inside the environment? And then we're matching those up with Metasploit Framework and DISA to determine which have active vulnerabilities already associated with them. And so then that's how we prioritize this view. We do have an add-on service called Managed Vulnerability Mitigation, MVM. And what that does is that takes into consideration your critical assets, their business value, and then reprioritizes based off of that. And then it also puts it in meaningful chunks. Get these 5 patches done now, and that'll give you the most bang for your buck. But from a core service perspective, we are doing prioritization of vulnerabilities identified. Now, we are getting this data from Defender for Endpoint Plan 2 to be more specific. This comes out of the threat and vulnerability section. For other devices that are on the network, different network devices, what have you, those are also getting scanned, and you can view those vulnerabilities within inside of Defender itself. At any given point in time, you can review what detection rules we have curated for your environment through the Detect tab. So you can see which ones we've done, we've created to fill in gaps, or which ones come from Microsoft itself. Additionally, I think I mentioned this earlier, but we are also monitoring your Sentinel ingest costs, and we can set thresholds on this cost. So if it hits a certain threshold, this causes an alert to go off to your cyber advisor. And again, your advisor then will dig in to see what's driving this cost, where is it coming from a connector perspective, all the way down to the workload itself and how maybe we need to trim that log, not compromising the security value of the log, actually keeping the security pieces, but getting rid of the other parts of the log that are actually driving up the costs. And then finally, there's a management dashboard on here that's really just looking at SLA, different times, what are the average times to respond and what have you. So you can keep us honest and track what we're doing. The other part I'd like to review too is my environment. And this is the area where our service, one of the tough things is trying to customize a service to a client. And this is where ours really gets to that point where we're really able to do that with our client, no matter how big our clients are or how small they are. Each client can have more of a customized service as much as they want to put into it. And what I mean by that is, number one, we have an asset database here, and within inside that asset database, you can always go in, change the category of an asset, which would then change potentially the rules of engagement for that asset itself. We can also get very granular on those rules of engagements as well. But this is one way of reassigning assets to more fit a rule of engagement that aligns to you, as well as who are the contacts specifically for this asset and how should we follow the different contact pattern. Again, the rules of engagement themselves and getting really defined. We actually have, I have the asset tagging mapping over here where you can start mapping different assets and then grouping them and then putting them into specific actions to be taken depending on what the incident is. And then finally, there's the escalation contacts. Who are we contacting on your side? What's that escalation pattern look like? And you can always keep this up to date. So wrap back up with the assistant. I have a lot of clients that ask me, should we interact with your service? And really, I lead back to our assistant. The assistant knows everything about your environment. So you can ask it anything that you want that's within inside the realm of your environment. So you can ask about different cross trends, different incidents. What incidents do I have? You can dig into those incidents themselves. You can ask it about other types of, hey, I want to implement MFA. How do I do that? That type of thing. Really anything from a security perspective that involves your environment or that revolves around your environment, you can ask the assistant itself. It's a very good way, and I think really an underutilized way of using our service. We can really foresee this transforming. Any questions that aren't answered by this are reviewed to see if they're applicable and then implemented into the service if so. But this is another way to really interact with our service. And that should do the demo. Thank you.